As a lifelong Democrat, you have suggested potentially running as an independent. Doesn't that trouble you a little philosophically? Is it merely a strategic ploy to again divide the vote so that there will be a three-way race, so that Harold Washington will rerun the scenario that elected him in 1983?
No, I don't need three candidates to run to win, period. I'm not disturbed about the possibility of anybody running independent, but evidently a lot of other people are. And if some other people are disturbed about it, then I'm happy about it. But I don't need two candidates to win. I beat one candidate to get this office, it seems to me, unless there was a third party out there beating me across the head whom I didn't see. Mr. Epton is one man, and we beat him with the biggest turnout the city's ever had. So I think it's been pretty well demonstrated that our potential as a politician or as a candidate for mayor, and the polls, which I do not rely on exclusively, have indicated quite clearly that we're the front runner in just about any campaign.
Even against Jane Byrne, even though she may potentially run as a Republican?
You saw the polls like I did. I didn't conduct them. But if that's the evidence you want, the evidence is pretty clear that we were 10, 12 points ahead of them.
We as voters will determine your future in the city of Chicago. There are other forces that determine Chicago's future outside the city. Are we still a city that works? Are we still a city that is going to be viable for attracting foreign investment, for doing those things that make a metropolitan area bloom and develop?
Your assumption is not necessarily accepted by most people as a city that used to work. One is forced to ask for definitions if you say that.
I didn't say used to. I said, is it still a city that works?
The implication is that it used to work, and I say a lot of people will say it didn't work. And when you say work, what do you mean by work? Did we build tall buildings? Yes. Did we pave a few streets? Yes. What happened to the people? What happened to the neighborhoods? What happened to a city in which we lost a 600,000 population in 10 years before I was mayor? What happened to this city in which we lost our steel, our rubber, our electronics, and fabrics markets before I was mayor? What happened to a city in which we lost about 150,000 jobs during the first 6 years preceding my coming into office? What happened to a city that lost 5,000 commercial enterprises in the 2 or 3 years before I was mayor?
Did the city work?
Did the city work? There's some doubts about it. Yes, the city is working now and working together. And you get some obverse statistics. For example, last year there was a 12% increase in sales. We increased our housing units 12,000 in 1 year, following a decade in which we've lost 6,000 housing units per year. Investments have gone up. We have 11 skyscrapers going up right now. McCormick Place under our administration has been expanded, is being expanded. Airport under my administration is going to more than double its passenger service from 42 million to 92 million in 3 years. Chicago Theater has been saved, and it will anchor the North Loop. We put 10% more community development block grant funds into the neighborhoods, not even talking about the human equation in which we've opened government up for women, Hispanics, and so forth and so on. Freedom of information. You
sense a recurring
you can find out what your government is doing. We've upped the budgetary process. People really know where their money's coming from now and where it's going. Yes, Chicago is working now better than it's ever worked before, and if you compare the two definitions of work, before Harold and after, I think most people will be more inclined to accept my definition of Chicago working because it really involves people.
What about the World's Fair, sir? There will be a perception, it was stated in the Sun-Times in an analysis the other day, that Harold Washington is somewhat to blame for the fact that Chicago will not be hosting the 1992 World's Fair. Is that fair?
I didn't kill Cock Robin, nor was I an instrument in his demise. We did everything which we were called upon to do, and did it very well and on time. For example, we supported the fair. We put together the intergovernmental contract, which circumscribed very carefully the duties and the responsibilities of the City of Chicago in the World's Fair. The City Council approved of it. The Illinois General Assembly accepted it, and pursuant to that gave us $2.2 million 1 year and $8.8 million the following year for feasibility studies on the fair to report back. We put together with the governor, the authority, and staffed it, and they performed. You've seen the studies. People have read the studies. Why didn't it succeed? It didn't succeed because we are now at the stage where we should have been 2 years ago before I came into office. In short, the question has been raised. Were we sold? That's the question. A pig in a poke. And a lot of people are saying yes. The General Assembly said yes. The Adlai Stevenson report said yes. I say, notwithstanding that, let's continue, at least to next fall, utilize the remaining dollars that are there, about $2 million, to make certain that every stone has been unturned to see if this fair will function. Now,
is that realistic, or isn't it already buried?
If there are those who want to point the finger, they can point away. But I submit to you that if you take another poll, you will find out that the people of the city of Chicago overwhelmingly have made it clear that under no circumstances do they want to reach into their pockets and be the sole source of paying for a World's Fair. Now, I'm a political leader. What is my responsibility? To be a booster to the point of extremism and overlook the cogent facts which say that as of this point, no one has made a case for the viability, the financial viability.
It would have been an enormous source of civic pride. Am I to understand from what you're saying that there is still a glimmer of hope in your estimation that the fair will actually take place?
We started this interview by my telling you I don't give up. I don't get frustrated. I don't get discouraged. When I make up my mind something's got to be done, and I run it through the computer of my own mind and those of people whom I have faith in, I go, and I don't worry about the consequences. And I think we should play this hand all the way out.
Is it possible that one of the residuals that we definitely will get as a consequence of even discussing the fair is a domed sports stadium for the Sox, the Cubs, and the Bears?
No, not as a residual. I think it's a natural development for Chicago to think in terms of more glamorous stadia for its first-rate teams. I think that would follow, whether you have a fair or not. I think that's about it. All that land that has been crying for development will be developed, whether we have a fair or not. Chicago is not the loser. Chicago is way ahead of the game. Just because something is not feasible, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've suffered a defeat. It may well be you had more sense than most people.
We have 30 seconds left. That domed sports stadium, where will it be and when?
If we have one, it will be placed where, in my judgment, it will best serve the people of the city of Chicago. And that's the only judgment I ever exercise.
Nothing more definite than that?
That's all people elect me for, to exercise my best judgment.
I'm sorry we don't have more time, in more ways than one. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I wish you the best of luck with our fair city, because it's something that we all share, regardless of our political orientation or our past ethnic orientation. I wish you the best of luck, sir.
Thank you. When you say fair city, that's no pun.
No, indeed it is not.
A fair city.
Mayor Harold Washington has been my guest. Please stay with us as Dimensions continues.